All right. Welcome to a unusual episode of Pint of Comics. It is a video episode brought to you by COVID-19. COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. That's sad.
COVID-19. Fucking up podcasts since 2019. and so it's just me, Ganesh, here with you for tonight's episode. The reason being is we're trying to do some extra content, different things. And I figured it'd be easier to do this one as a two-person thing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to test this out with my buddy Stu from the great Pittsburgh podcast, Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Stu, how are you doing, man?
We are a Pittsburgh podcast. I don't know if we deserve adjectives, but yeah, we are doing well. And I know a lot of our friends, like So Wizard podcast, for instance, I know they have always recorded separately. And man, like we did not. Chad, Andy, and I were always in the room together recording. And now that we're doing the Skype and what have you thing, it is not great.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing with us. We kind of pride ourselves on being together in the same room. And when we have guests, we're together. I had never done a remote. So I'm learning. It's something else, man. And it's like we've been podcasting together for 3 years now, and I think we have a good chemistry, great chemistry. But I said it like Trump: good chemistry, great chemistry.
We have the best chemistry.
We have the best chemistry.
I can't tell you exactly how that chemistry works, but it's the best. We have the best people working on that chemistry.
But I feel like when we're on the Zoom or whatever, I feel like there's this like awkwardness that we can't get past. Do you feel it too?
You just did that too, because we do like the little raise our hands thing on the video too. We're like, I'm going to talk now.
Can I speak now?
Yeah.
It's weird when we're in the room together. It's just like you look at someone, you know when they're going to talk.
Yeah, you just have this. Like you said, there's the chemistry where like I don't really even have to look at Chad or Andy. I can just kind of tell by the air of the room, I guess, when they have something. But now it's just nope.
It's over.
You also, I want to point out, you have the award of being the first podcast anything that I'm recording in my brand new house.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have not recorded with Chad or Andy since I've moved. It was just this past weekend, and we're still setting everything up. There's boxes for days. I don't advise moving. It's the worst ever.
And you guys, not to get too far into a story, but you guys have had a lot of issues with.
Yeah, so we started this whole process over a year ago. Like it's the middle of April now. Last February, my wife had gotten a new job and was like, we're gonna look for a new house. And we found a house. So we put our house on the market. Time passed, and we finally had a guy who wanted to buy our house. This is such an interesting story for everyone. But he had this whole thing. We went from like early April through August with this guy stringing us along, not being able to get a loan. He ran his own business, but he was divorced from his wife, and she lived in a different state. So when they got divorced, he started taking the money from his business and putting it into his personal account.
Oh, wow.
So when the bank looked to give him a loan, they were like, why didn't you make any money for all these months? And then just like we lost 2 different houses we were interested in last year. And then just finally this February, we started the process again, and we closed on this house, and we're going to be on selling our house on the 22nd. So Jesus, it's been 14 months of this.
Yeah, and you bought a house and moved during a plague.
During COVID, yeah, we are the exact opposite of social distancing because we're just dealing with movers and electricians and mechanics and delivery people. It's like we're doing everything you're not supposed to do right now.
All right, well, stay safe, stay healthy, and try to get everybody to wear a mask around you. I don't know where you guys are out there in Pennsylvania, but we're getting big on the masks out on this side over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, and you will notice, since we're doing this as a video, the other thing I'm terrible about with COVID is that I will touch my face constantly.
Oh, no, yeah, watch. Right up here. My fingers all the way in my nose. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I've never realized how much my eyes itch every 2 minutes until they told me I'm not allowed to touch my face.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I've been wearing a mask at work all day. My face is getting chapped. But meanwhile, I'll go in the back or something, have a few minutes, pull the mask down, and then I just find myself molesting my face all the time. I don't know why.
So you wear glasses.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of mask you wear. Maybe you wear a different kind.
Oh, no.
I was
fogged up all day, dude. Fogged up all day.
Because I wear glasses sometimes, and I was at work, and they have us wear our masks like the one day a week I go into my job, and it was just like, what is going on? I can't see anything all day.
No, I'm having a hard time. I always wore contacts, and I went back to glasses a couple years ago, and this year I was going to go back to contacts, and now it's a case of I'm not going to an eye doctor right now.
Yeah.
So I wish, because I can't see without my glasses, and literally I'm just getting used to every time I breathe, not being able to see, breathing in.
And it goes down.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a real shit show.
It's the pits.
It is the pits. All right. So this is a 100-proof book project, which is very similar. If you listen to Ghost of the Stratosphere, you guys have a segment on your shows called The Read Pile.
Yes.
You guys do it as a segment generally. We do it as a whole show. And what it is we take a book and an arc, a trade, a graphic novel, whatever, and we decide, let's read it and dissect it, talk about it. So the book I picked for this one, I picked for two reasons. Number one, if you go back a week or so, Stu and Chad and Andy did an episode about Superman, and you covered a Superman book, Hunter Prey, right?
Yep.
And you mentioned on that show, and you mentioned before, that you're a huge Superman fan, that you've really attached yourself to Superman in the last couple years. So I was thinking about doing this, and I said, well, a Superman book would be good. And I could go with some of the common ones, All-Star, or, For the Man, all that stuff. But this is the second part. I've been trying to get my collection down a bit. And I recently sold an entire long box of New 52 bullshit to somebody who wanted it. So, I went through it, and I was getting everything together, and there was very little I wanted to keep. And I realized that I had bought years ago and never read the 9-issue Scott Snyder and Jim Lee miniseries, Superman Unchained. So I said, you know what? I'll keep it for as long as we have to do this, and maybe I'll keep it further. We'll talk about that more. We'll do this on the show. It's 9 issues. And then I'll decide, does it go in the box along with the stuff I'm giving the guy, or does this stay?
Is this guy just E2 fan?
Oh, I lost you for a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Me?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's with the guy who wanted the New 52? I mean, that's walking to the doctor's office and being like, can I have 5 extra shots?
Yeah. Guy I know. He's a big fan of comics, and I think he was maybe out of comics during the New 52, and he's just really he's willing. And I mean, it was not like I want $100. It was a cheap sale to make some room. And the few series, Swamp Thing, Batman, Wonder Woman, the few of the ones that I liked, I'm keeping. But then I had a whole box of shit that just for me was exactly that shit. And this happened to be in there. And as I was going through it, I went, hold the horses. I'm going to read this, determine whether it stays in my collection, and make a show out of it too. So you had never read this story before, correct?
I had not. During the New 52, I read the New Guardians book, and I read Batgirl of Burnside. And that was it. Other than that, I pretty much stayed out of New 52. I didn't get into the main title books. Yeah. Like, I think in hindsight, I eventually ended up reading Court of Owls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Scott Snyder wrote this, and Jim Lee drew it. Scott Snyder, known primarily, I would say, for writing Batman through the entirety of the New 52. He wrote it along with Greg Capullo drawing it. And he also wrote the first maybe 20 issues or 15 issues of Swamp Thing. He's also known for Witches and what's that other book he did? Dark Knight's Metal and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff.
Kind of, yeah.
The Batman who laughs and all that, yeah.
Yeah, not my
And they're doing, I mean, I don't know when it's coming out now, or it might have even started coming out, but they are doing that shoot-off series of The Dark Knight Who Laughs and Dark Knight Metal with the Wonder Woman and her chainsaw of truth.
Yeah. And I liked the Snyder Batman stuff. I tried reading his Justice League in the Rebirth era of new DC, and I got 2 issues in and could not get into it. So I like him as a writer. Not a solid favorite, but I like him. Jim Lee. I am a little bit past the Jim Lee time. I wasn't reading comics in the early to mid 90s, so he's never been like that level for me. Are you a Jim Lee guy or no?
He was the X-Men artist, I think.
Right.
Whenever I started reading X-Men, it was in like the 250s. So I think Lee was the guy in that time. He'd taken over for Silvestri, and I read the offshoot X-Men title that they pretty much gave him.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I like Jim Lee. He I think meets the press to me. All his characters look the same. Like every single female character just looks like Psylocke to me.
Yeah. As I was reading these books, the one thing I could think about was that Jim Lee's style of art. If Michael Bay ever wrote a comic book, and he didn't hire Jim Lee to draw it, he'd be a fool. Because Bayhem, right? You know, Bayhem. These books. If you're a Bayhem guy, these books are stroke material big time. There's so much. And it's impressive, but the action scenes are actiony. They're big. There's so much happening.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be. Jim Lee drew what was it, All-Star Batman and Robin, where there's a scene where Batman bangs Huntress or Black Canary while a bunch of criminals are on fire. Yeah, that's Michael Bay, the comic book right there. Yeah,
the All-Star Batman and Robin when the Green Lantern came to stop Superman or Batman, and Batman painted himself yellow. Yeah, because you knew his goddamn weakness is yellow. It was like that book. It was like that was when you realized Frank Miller is. Yeah, maybe Frank Miller is losing it a little bit.
Frank Miller, you should have stayed 2 decades ago, man.
Yeah.
You're not with us anymore. We don't know what happened.
You're not Frank Miller. All right, so. As we do on our show often, I'll ask John or Lloyd to bumper sticker something on your show. It's always the 10 cents of synopsis. So if you were to give the synopsis of these 9 issues of Superman Unchained, what would you say this is about?
So this is about New 52 Superman, and Lex Luthor's in it, and I'll get into that because Lex Luthor doesn't need to be in the story. But,
totally agreed. Totally fucking agreed.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be here, but I'll get into it. I have whole notes on that. But Lois Lane's dad is a general in the military, and it turns out that he has this big secret base and all these weapons Superman didn't know about, and they also have another Superman who has been on Earth for 75 years.
Right.
And this is the story of how Superman meets this new Superman and what comes of him.
Absolutely. Wraith is his name.
William Rudolph's Ace in the Hole.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I did actually get a kick out of that.
So. I like that. At least they gave it, that character, Wraith, reminded me of something that would have been in a Jim Lee 90s comic. Like he looked like he could have been a character in, like, I don't know, Wild Force or Diamond Guard or something like that. Some shitty title.
Next month, Brigade crosses over with Wraith.
Yeah. He very much blue character, red energy all about him. Yeah. So this book starts off, and now how did you read this?
I read it on the DC Universe streaming service.
All right. So the first thing I want to point out, I'll pull this up one more time, Superman Unchained #1. I want to point out that 9-issue series, it was originally considered, it was going to be an ongoing. And for whatever reason, they only went 9 issues. This book came out on the Wednesday before the Friday that Man of Steel opened. So it's almost like they were trying to have some kind of synergy, like, hey, there's a new Superman book plus a new movie. If you went to see that movie and grabbed this book, you couldn't be, like, if you were a newcomer, you couldn't be more, like, devastated at how different these things are. And they do that. Marvel does that, but it's like, holy shit. So I want to point this out. We were talking about the Jim Lee factor. So first of all, issue 1 is $4.99. Issues 2 through 8, $3.99. And issue 9, which is no longer than any other issue, is back to $4.99. So $2 extra for no extra story.
But they're going to gouge you to find out how it all ends.
Yes, but that $2 went towards something. because if you get to the inside of the first couple pages, talking about a 90s rewind.
I was wondering. Okay.
All right. You get a
Yeah.
gigantic double-sided Jim Lee splash page of Superman saving a satellite, right?
Okay, because I was reading this on the DC Universe services, and it was like
You had to keep going.
You would get part of the page, then
Yeah.
you click, you get. And I was like, why are they doing this like a spread page? Just show me the page.
Yeah, no, because it's 19 pages wide. Is why. All right. So in the beginning of the book, and we'll kind of go through the whole thing, but we'll just kind of hit high points, low points. The beginning of the book, 8 satellites are crashing to Earth, and Superman has to save the world. Upon finding one of the satellites going down, he finds a handprint in it, right? Which leads him to believe that a superhuman that he doesn't know helped to stop one of these satellites coming down, right?
Right.
Because
he stopped 7 of them.
And
he's like, oh, well, I didn't stop one, but it was going to land somewhere harmless anyway.
Right.
And Lois is telling him they're talking on the phone, which I didn't read New 52 Superman. I guess they don't both work for the Daily Planet here.
You know, I didn't read New 52 Superman itself, so I don't know, but they did lean into the fact that he was not working there any longer. Yeah. They made it a point to say, like, your new job or whatever you're doing now. Yeah.
And he has Jimmy Olsen delivering him bagels.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Well,
Lois,
Lois, who works in the Daily Planet that all of a sudden has Iron Man technology.
Yeah.
Like, she's got big, like, screens that she's, like, swooshing aside to get
she's like Minority Report.
Yeah. Like, why is the Daily Planet friggin' Iron Man all of a sudden? Yeah. But, yeah, and she's like, oh, Superman stopped all the satellites. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so Superman stops 7 of the 8 satellites. He finds out a superhuman stopped the last one. He goes to investigate, and he runs into General Lane, right? General Lane is Lois's father, who is he's a longtime comic character. He is an army general, and he's now in charge of a project. What is the project, Stu?
Oh, was it The Machine?
The Machine, yeah. The Machine.
Yeah, there were a lot of dumb names for things in this story. The Machine, Ascension.
Ascension, yeah. Yeah. Earthstone, yeah. Oh, man.
Earthstone, which in all my notes is just called Magic Rock.
It basically is a magic rock. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, I read this book, issue 1 through 9. Mm-hmm. I read a couple issues a day over the course of a few days. Does it get convoluted to you in terms of, like what's going on in this book? Like, did you get a strong sense that this could have been a 5-issue miniseries, that there happened to be 4 more issues too?
Yeah. Now, there were, like I said, one of my notes I'm going to get right into is I feel like Lex Luthor is, and this is really obvious when I say it, but he's the Joker of the Superman universe, where writers just use him as a crutch.
Yeah.
It's like they don't know how to tell a Batman story without the Joker, and they don't know how to tell a Superman story without Lex Luthor. So you have this story that has nothing to do with Lex Luthor, but Snyder's like, but I'm going to use Lex Luthor.
Not only is he going to use Lex Luthor, but he's also going to utilize Lex Luthor in the fact that he's not the villain of the story, but his end game is he's still going to kill Superman.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I honestly, I agree with you. I felt like Snyder was sitting there, and he had a decent story that could have never utilized Lex Luthor. And then he said, how do I fucking shoehorn Lex Luthor into this thing?
No, you're 100% right. It's like the story was written, and then he just found holes in which to insert Luthor, and it was like, nope, didn't need to do that.
Yeah,
didn't need that at all.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, no. To the rest of your point, yeah, like all the machine stuff, like, okay, they have black hole bullets, which that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
they have red sunlight bullets. Okay. And then there's all this stuff with the Ascension, and it's just like just tell me Superman and Wraith. That's the story I want.
Right.
All this extraneous stuff, the Ascension and their magic rock. Yeah, it felt like a lot of this did not actually need to be here.
Okay, I'm glad you felt that way.
Yeah.
So the Machine is essentially Wraith 75 years ago crash landed on Earth, and the U.S. government found out about it, and very Hellboy like. They take him in, and he has been kind of the U.S. government's secret, proactive Superman. And that's a big part of this story, is that Wraith wants Superman to be better, and his idea of being better is that Superman, sure, he he'll save people, he'll do this and that, but he's not proactive. He's not, he's not going to go destroy that that terrorist cell. You know what I mean? And that's what Wraith does. They point Wraith, the machine points Wraith at something, he takes care of it. As proven, which I thought was a cool point, when you find out that one of the 2 bombs that went off, I think it was the Hiroshima bomb or Nagasaki.
The Nagasaki one, I think.
The Nagasaki bomb was actually Wraith.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool little history retcon to find that out.
Yeah, I could buy that. The thing, I'm going to get into this whole Wraith thing real fast because this felt like Scott Snyder, his greatest hits, because you had this in Court of Owls where it's like, oh, by the way, there's been this secret thing that Batman, who should absolutely know about this, just doesn't know about for the last 100 years. And then with Wraith, it's like, oh, by the way, there's this thing that Superman would absolutely know about, but he just didn't know about for 75 years. And it's like, I've read this story, Scott Snyder. You've done this before. Even earlier in Batman, I think right before New 52, they did the story where Scott Snyder brought back Jim Gordon's kid, and it's like, oh, he's a serial killer. No one happened to know about it all this time. And it's like, Scott Snyder really likes, like, oh, things have been happening for 50 years that no one has paid attention to until me.
Right. I get your feeling on that, because you're right. It is. The Court of Owls is living underneath, society, and Wraith has been doing this for 75 years, and nobody's paid any attention to it, or questioned it or anything.
Didn't realize anything was going on or anything. Like, come on, or any of the threats that Superman has had to stop from destroying the Earth. Like, the military didn't deem necessary to send Wraith after those.
Yeah,
all right.
You're right. Pretty weak. You're right. So did you like the character of Wraith? Would you hope to ever see him pop up again?
He seemed like he could have been interesting, but he just kept flowing in and out of like being, he's something new versus, oh yeah, he's just a Superman villain. Because when you first meet him, he's like, haha, I'm big and strong and gonna kill you. But then it's just like, oh no, I'm gonna show you where I live, and here's my bunker, and it's great, and I'm Superman too, and we're friends. And then you get to later on where he's just like, no, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, that was great. They make friends. He brings them to his house. Gives them cookies, gives them a little Sunny D. And then they get into a fight with all these like drones or something in Tokyo. And they're fighting. And he goes, it's going to be a real shame, Superman, when I have to kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Save that for later, man. We're fighting right now.
Yeah, like he goes from 0 to 60 real fast. Like, he and Superman are hanging out, and they're kind of like, well, you're not doing things the right way. No, you're not doing things the right way. But they're cool. And then Superman takes him to the Fortress of Solitude, and he's like, all right, I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you feel like this is something I felt like, because General Lane, I guess, in a way, and Wraith kind of get into Superman's head. But did you have a feeling this was like a 9-issue series of Superman not acting like Superman? Like, he doubts himself, and he doesn't believe in himself. And, I get it. It's the redemptive arc for what happens at the end. But I never felt like I was reading actual Superman. And then they undercut it by, Wraith keeps on saying that, you're not good enough. You're not nearly as strong as me. He has to teach Superman how to do rapid fire laser sight, which Superman's never done. And then when it comes to the big moment where Superman is going to finally turn the tables on Wraith, he needs Batman to do it for him.
Yeah.
Like,
Batman has to give Superman like the kryptonite ring for Wraith, which I thought was funny, but also weird. Like, Superman of all people.
So did you feel that way, that this didn't feel
There is very particularly a moment in issue 3 where Superman is having a confrontation with Wraith, and Superman essentially like frat boys out his chest and is like, come on then, come at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the least Superman thing I have ever read in my life. Like, Superman is not a frat boy who's like, you want to go?
You want to go, bro? You want to go?
There are moments in here, like, there's the scene where the tower in
Dubai.
Whatever. Yeah, Dubai is collapsing, and Superman has this very like, he's keeping track of time, and he's like, how can I save all these people when there's all this stuff going on, and he's just making all these plans, and I thought that is a great Superman moment. But then it's undercut by, come at me.
Yeah. That was a good moment where he uses the breath to freeze, like kind of a ramp to settle the building. I like that. There was, again, not being a Jim Lee guy necessarily, there is a lot of good action pieces in this. This would be an action-packed movie. It might not be a good movie. It'll be Transformers like 4, but it would be, there'd be a lot going on in it.
Oh, I can piss off a lot of your viewers though. It'd still be better than Man of Steel.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many, I didn't hate that movie. I'm one of the few people.
Oh.
But I'm also not a huge Superman guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
I kind of look at Man of Steel as, and there are things about it I don't like. I kind of look at that movie as he's not Superman yet, and when that movie ends, he is. So I feel like a lot of the choices like when he kills Zod, I mean, I
didn't even have an issue with that. I just thought like the last hour of that movie is a fight scene, and it's just like, all right, I'm done.
But you got to think of it this way, though. For the 4 prior Superman movies, right? You didn't get much of that at all, and that was a big complaint. Or 5 Superman movies. Superman Returns. I enjoyed Superman Returns.
Yeah.
I actually did enjoy it.
I don't think he punches anything.
He doesn't punch anything. So a lot of people over the years have complained, except for Superman 2. Here's a guy who's going up against Lex Luthor, who he could destroy like that. It's all brains. So now you get an hour of him punching Zod across Metropolis. So it goes one way or the other. But I don't think you're going to offend anybody. I don't know if you can offend most people by talking bad about any of the DC movies at this point.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, we're both on Twitter, and I just see the Twitter all the time where it's like, what's the single greatest movie ever made? And people are like, Man of Steel. I'm like,
what? Really?
Yeah, people love that movie. People love Batman vs. Superman. I mean, they have that whole, I want the Snyder cut of Justice League. And I'm like, I've already seen other Zack Snyder movies. I'm Zack Snydered up.
You're done.
I don't need any more Zack Snyder in my life.
Would you, if the Zack Snyder cut did come out tomorrow, would you watch it?
I'd watch it just so I could say, like, what's still terrible about it.
Right. I'm one of the few people, I totally hated Batman vs. Superman.
Uh-huh.
I was amused by Justice League. You know what I mean? Like, I could watch it and not be offended by it and not remember much about it. But I didn't leave the theater. I didn't leave the theater going, fuck, what, you ruined it. We knew where we were heading at that point,
Yeah, Justice League, I think I had the insight to wait till that was out on video and watch. I did not see Justice League in theater.
I did. I think we reviewed it early on in the show. I did see it. So getting back to Superman Unchained. So Ascension. Who's Ascension, Stu?
Ascension, are they supposed to be anonymous?
I think so. Yeah.
Because they have like the
hologram.
Yeah, like they have the Ned Ludd mask, who's an old English folk hero mask that they all wear. So, and they're essentially like we're gonna make things better, but like a terrorist cell. And I was like, Zack Snyder think this is what Anonymous is? Because it's not, but
yeah.
Like they're not nefarious.
Well, I mean, so essentially when you get down to it, in the end, Ascension is the great-grandson, right, of William, was his name William Rudolph?
William Randolph or William Rudolph.
Right, William Randolph, I think. It's the great-grandson who doesn't agree with the way the machine is utilizing Wraith's alien technology, and they're trying to do something better with it. But take that idea and add 1 trillion words to it and make it so much more confusing than it needs to be.
Yeah, I didn't understand what their deal was at any point. They had Lois kidnapped, and they fought Lois for a while, and they didn't seem to like anybody, and they introduced the magic rock, which, where did they get it? Where did it come from? They had it.
Very similar to Krypton technology.
Yeah.
Crystals. So I don't know. The more, when I read this, and I thought about us talking about it, I thought, it was okay. I don't think I'd ever read it again. The more we're talking about it, the more I'm like,
Yeah, no, when you talk, I thought the same thing. When I read this, I enjoyed it just fine. And the parts, like you said, with the parts with the Ascension and the parts more with the machine, I just kind of like, all right, and then flip to the next page to see if something better is happening. But I mean, it wasn't bad. I liked the Batman stuff. Like he's just like, just so happens at this time in Batman's life, he comes up with a costume that Superman can't see that he then can use against Wraith.
Yeah.
But I liked their play with each other where it's like, I don't know how long they've known each other in the New 52, but they're like, oh, a couple years ago I made stuff to fight you, but now we're friends now.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years.
Yeah.
I think when the New 52 started, I think it was supposed to be a 5-year time jump between the book starting and then I think Justice League was where they all met. So,
okay.
So
no, there was stuff here that I liked. And then there was a lot of stuff that I just had to zip past. But yeah, now that we're talking about it, the stuff that you zip past, it was just like you said, like this should have been a 4-issue story in a Superman book. You didn't need a 9-issue book for this and to drag everything out.
Extremely padded out. Yeah. And somebody definitely had, there's the whole scene where General Lane and all of the machine tech go to attack the Fortress of Solitude. And General Lane's just like, talking to one of the guys, like, turn on that death metal music, we're gonna rain down black hole super bullets, and it's just like, and then they get to what I felt was just super cheesy, was Superman is not strong enough to fight these guys, so he has to put on like some kind of like exo armor.
Yeah,
Snyder has a huge boner for because he put Batman in exo armor in the New 52 as well, and I don't know.
It looked like Superman stole Ares' clothes.
He's got Ares' clothes on, and he's got like almost a hammer like Thor. I don't know. I just felt like there was so much of this book that typically, and it does work that way, felt like how are we, not comic books, action figures. What can we do here?
Yeah.
Superman. Batman in an invisible suit,
Oh yeah, with the big yellow, like his entire invisible suit looked different. So yeah, that's action figures. Wraith is an action figure.
figure.
And at one point, Wraith puts on some kind of armor to go fight Batman. So he had a different, he had an alternate look too.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Another question for you. So we have these little backup epilogues that were unnecessarily, totally unnecessary.
Well, the epilogues all seem to matter. A matter of fact, I don't know why they just weren't part of the story.
I agree, but what I meant by that was, I guess I meant the actual, one of them in particular. So we shoehorn Luthor into it. Why did he have to kidnap Jimmy Olsen? Why was it that made there was you think it's going to be like he brainwashes Jimmy Olsen, and Jimmy Olsen's hey there, pal, and sticks something on him. No, he straight up just says, Jimmy Olsen, you're going to kill Superman, drops Jimmy Olsen in front of Superman. Jimmy Olsen's like, this is going to kill you, Superman. What was the whole fucking point of that?
He gave Jimmy Olsen the wristwatch of doom.
Yeah,
That's wristwatch all it was. He just put a wristwatch on him and sent him off to Superman. And he was like, inside this wristwatch is a magic syringe that'll turn you into a bomb. But Superman had to do it himself. Jimmy didn't stick him with it. So
exactly.
Lex Luthor could have just sent that to Superman in the mail and it would have had the exact same effect.
Yeah, that was bad writing.
You could have had the story end with Superman talking to Lois and a FedEx driver just pulls up and is like, here, Mr. Luthor sent this to you.
Yeah, no, it was... Yeah,
it was just unnecessary drama.
Totally unnecessary drama, and it totally felt like Scott Snyder, maybe he was worried this would be his one chance to write Superman, so he had to, use all of the toys.
I'm sticking Jimmy in this book.
Oh, we're gonna have Jimmy. We're gonna. Oh man, I'm surprised Supergirl didn't show up. Where was Krypto? I'm gonna shove your.
If you want to talk about unnecessary drama,
yeah.
Which issue is it that ends with? Oh, it's issue 5. Issue 5 ends on the cliffhanger of little kid Superman is getting shot by his hillbilly neighbor.
Yeah,
and it's like, how is this a cliffhanger? I'm pretty sure he survives this. It's not oh no, tune in next week to see if Superman has survived this shooting by Jedediah, his neighbor from 40 years ago.
Yeah, I liked that bit of the story where it goes back and Jedediah is this kind of crazy drunk that owns a silo or something that Superman relates a story that when he was a kid, him and Lana Lang would jump off of it. Lana Lang falls off of it. He catches her in midair flying as a kid, and Jedediah sees it. And Jedediah, straight up murders the fuck out of Clark. I mean, he doesn't really, obviously, but he's threatening Martha. And Clark says, hey, take the gun off my mom, and he shoots the fuck out of a 7-year-old kid. And you're right, it's a good story kind of relating to the fact that Clark had differences as a kid, and he's always had to kind of worry about it being exposed. But you're right, they left it on a cliffhanger, and it's like there's no way you're going to go, oh my God. Is he going to survive this?
By the way, all of Superman's history was a myth. He was actually killed by Jedediah.
It's all been a dream.
Superman Unchained.
It's all been a dream. Yeah, you get the number 9, you find out that there is no Superman.
It's just the dying fever dream of 7-year-old Clark Kent.
Wow. Wow. What is that? Jacob's Ladder? You ever seen Jacob's Ladder? Yeah.
I have not, but I know of it.
Okay, this is the Jacob's Ladder of Superman comics right there. So, Stu, what were some of the things in this book that you really liked?
Like I said, I really liked the tower scene. I liked the desperation Superman had both in that scene and when he's fighting Wraith, where you see Superman think like, oh, punch him in the diaphragm and shoot him up into space. He's got to breathe.
He can't breathe,
like
yeah.
And then when Wraith does the same thing to him and like punches him in the lungs and then pushes him underwater, Superman's like, oh, I can dig under the water and get like, I liked showing Superman as, you know, the thinking threat that he is.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much like Superman in this. I don't like Superman stories where Superman and Lois don't know who they are. Like, I don't like Lois not knowing that he's Superman. So that threw me off. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much the Superman stuff in here. There were moments, like you said, when they correlate what happened to him as a kid.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's a good story. I like that as like, even as a kid, he saw something that like he knew was wrong. But when he thought he killed Jedediah, he was just, you know, despondent over it.
And he saves him, and he has that wonderful moment that, you know, kind of only ever happens in fiction, where like the crazed like racist or murderer like, you saved me, now we're gonna be probably best friends, like, you know. But yeah, it's his maybe one of his first instances of saving a life, which, you know, obviously is going to be his whole thing. Here's a question for you. What do you think General Lane's problem with Superman is? Like, why does he seem to hate him so much?
It's one of those things they do a lot where, I mean, it's the same thing with Luthor. It's like, why don't you like this character? I mean, Lane plays it up as, you know, there are real things going on in the world that you don't just sweep in and kill all the terrorists. And which, I guess that's kind of a good characterization, because there would be people in America right now, if there was a real Superman, who would be like, why aren't you killing all the brown people?
Right.
So, that's awful. But I mean, that's what they would say, because, and true. I think that's, I don't mean to say like General Lane is a racist or anything, but I think like he just has this very jingoistic American-centric point of view where he doesn't look at what Superman does for the world. He's just like, why aren't you making things better for us?
Right. There's a moment where he gets very mad because Wraith goes to the Fortress of Solitude and realizes that Superman has kind of like his collection there of weaponry and stuff from people he's vanquished. And Wraith is like, why aren't you doing anything with this? And he's like, it's not meant to be used. Yeah. And that kind of facilitates the whole General Lane going to the Fortress of Solitude bit. Yeah. But it just seemed less like, you know, we could use you, you know, for good, and more like, I fucking hate you, you know?
He does seem, when they attack the Fortress of Solitude, he goes from being a character who like, all right, I can kind of see where you're coming from, even if I don't agree with it, to being like, oh, this character's a psychopath.
Right.
Where he's like, turn up the death metal. We're going to give him 60 seconds, but we're going in at 45.
Yeah.
Shoot him with the black hole gun. And it's like, so I wonder if he's just like crazy, or he's just a typical supervillain in a comic book, and that's all the reason that he needs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you got a lot of villains in this book. You got General Lane, you got Wraith, you got Luthor thrown in there, Ascension. Right? Because Ascension are the ones that launch every nuclear missile on Earth, right?
Yeah.
So Ascension apparently wants to start over from ground zero and utilize the Earthstone, or as you call it, the Magic Rock.
The Magic Rock.
To start the world over again. So at one point, they launch every single nuke on Earth. And Superman is able to stop it with help from
the Magic Rock.
With the Magic Rock, exactly.
There's no explanation to it. He just kind of holds it up in the air, looks at it with his heat vision. It creates a giant red grid thing, and then all the nukes just peter out. And it's like, okay. I mean, sure, Scott Snyder. I don't know what just happened. I don't
Yeah.
know if that was Scott Snyder not really coming up with like, oh, the Magic Rock just did it, or Jim Lee didn't draw the resolution particularly well, but I was just like, oh, it just happened. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was, now this might go to prove my, I guess, lack of knowledge about nuclear weapons, but they're blowing up in the air, but they're saying, well, the warheads aren't going to go off. So what the where are these warheads? Like can a nuclear missile blow up and the warhead just
not? Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. There's like 190,000 missiles in the air, and now there's just warheads everywhere.
Just landing in like San Francisco.
Right there, right in the bay. There's a fucking nuclear warhead on the Golden Gate Bridge. What?
Every single city in the world is now Megaton from Fallout 3. They've just got a nuke sitting in the middle of them.
Now, Sue, if you were to take this book, 9 issues, and someone gave it to you and said, you can't rewrite it, but you can edit it, what could you get this down to? What do you think? Manageably, what could you get this down to?
I would take out everything with the Magic Rock. I would honestly take out the Ascension. Like, I don't know why you need them at all. Lex Luthor admits he was the one who knocked the satellites out in issue 1. So if you're going to put Luthor in it, all right, he's the one who did that. Luthor somehow knows that Wraith has an entire, I don't know about that armada. I don't know if you need to keep that in at the end. We didn't even touch on that at all.
Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, you get to the end of it, and Wraith was basically sent as a scout to Earth.
Right.
Like, Wraith is Goku. He was sent to Earth to get Earth ready to be destroyed, but then he either turned good or didn't know that's what his purpose was. And it ends up being there's this whole armada out in space getting ready to invade Earth of Wraith's people.
Right.
And boy, they telegraphed this ending a mile away, because we talked about that syringe that's going to turn Superman into a bomb.
Yeah.
The second you see that, you know what's happening to that. You're like, oh, okay, this is how we're getting rid of Wraith. All right. And then, yeah, Wraith goes and stops Superman from doing it. He turns himself into a bomb and blows up all his own people. And it's like, boy, that really wraps everything up. I mean, it's comics. You could bring back Wraith 50,000 different ways.
Oh, yeah.
It just felt like this story just needed to have such a nice ending where it was like, all right, nothing matters.
Did you feel like there was a point, like you said, Wraith ends up sacrificing himself and destroying the armada of his people? Did you feel like Wraith did that for Superman? Like, I never felt there was a moment where, you were a worthy opponent after all. I was just figuring that he's been on Earth for 75 years and he has some kind of affinity for Earth. And that's why he did it,
It would have to be that. I mean, that would be the best explanation you could give, but it honestly felt like the most forced moment in the story, where it was just like, well, we have to get rid of Wraith.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to do it. It didn't feel natural. It just felt like when you have a one-off character who you've introduced and said, well, he's stronger than Superman. Well, we need a reason why he doesn't continue to exist in Superman's world. Yeah, it didn't feel natural to me. It didn't feel like there's no reason that character wouldn't do it, but boy, he just comes out of nowhere and is like, I'm gonna do it. Don't worry.
Yeah, because he got abandoned. Superman left him in the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
The magnetic fields canceled out both of their powers, basically.
Yeah.
So
except for the fact that Superman could then fly out.
Yeah. I guess I never even thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I brought you down here where it's just fisticuffs. Oh, it's over. I'm going to fly out.
So if you got rid of all that stuff, how many issues would you get this down to?
Boy, the Magic Rock and the Ascension are a lot. I mean, I think you could do 6. I think this would be all right as 6. You could do it as 4, but I think that would be shortchanging Wraith a bit. I would not only take out the Ascension, take out the Magic Rocks, take out the nukes and all that. I would give Wraith a little bit more. And I wouldn't kill him at the end, because you can do something with that character. Even if Snyder looked at that character and said, this is a one-off character we don't need, leave him around. Let another writer come in later on. Let's tell the untold adventures of Wraith at some point. I mean,
right.
I would add more about him. Maybe instead of telling he was the Nagasaki bomb, I would show some flashback stuff to show what he has done, to show maybe him in the background of Superman fighting a foe and stopping a threat Superman didn't see. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could take out, and you could take this down to about 6 issues, I think would be good. And then, yeah, forget the Armada at the end. Just leave it with Superman earning Wraith's respect, and they go their separate ways.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like the whole Armada bit, because it was introduced in and over with in the course of one issue, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it happened so fast. So it's like the world's about to be destroyed. This Armada shows up. One of the ships hits Superman with a beam, and he immediately becomes like the Mummy. He's like starting to become like tiny and cheeks sucked in. And you're like, wow, one of these ships could do that to Superman. And you figure this is going to be this great big battle. And within like one issue, it's wrapped up.
Yeah, it's all taken care of. Which, am I the only one who was left thinking, like, that ship weakened the hell out of Superman? Wraith turned himself into a bomb that blew up all the ships. How'd Superman survive?
Yeah.
Did they show Wraith, like, throwing him to safety? Because I missed it, if so.
No, he just floated back to Earth. Just float.
Okay. That's fine.
Re-entry. He I don't know. I think 6 issues would have been better. I think it definitely would have been better.
There are good aspects here. Like, whereas I think the Wraith stuff, it's not one of my favorite things whenever comics are like, it's the Sentry syndrome, where it's like, oh, by the way, here's this thing that's always existed that we just never bothered showing you. But I mean, if you're going to introduce it, do something with it.
Right.
So I thought his character was good. It wasn't handled particularly well. Yeah, just do more with that. I don't care about the fake Ascension terrorist group that all looks the same because they're wearing masks.
Yeah, not a big fan of that. I will tell you this: if you were, I think it's maybe around issue 6 or 7. I could be wrong. Maybe if you were a fan of the Batmobile, there's a double page spread in here that you're basically gonna like. I don't want to say the word, but you're gonna jizz all over it. It's drawing just about every Batmobile ever.
Every Batmobile.
Yeah.
And I got a kick out of that because he's like, they're insured. And I was like, are they, Batman? How do you insure those?
Not only are they insured, so the setup for this is that Wraith is gotten into the Batcave, and he's away from Superman, and Batman has distracted him long enough to fight him for a while. And Batman's plan to defeat Wraith, which hey, look, he's a regular guy in a suit, but like it's so wasteful. He drops the Batwing on him and then runs him over with every single Batmobile, which makes her a great 2-panel spread. Yeah. It's all the Batmobiles coming at him, and you see ones like the Grant Morrison one that flew, and you get them all. But it's like, and then you get the next scene where it shows him like under all this rubble, and you're like, did he just destroy his whole fucking fleet of vehicles? Was that really a good idea? Does he have nothing else up his sleeve? And the other part about that whole bit when they're fighting in there is that Scott Snyder or Jim Lee must have had it written down where they said, we're going to include every bit of background minutia of so we're going to get the Tyrannosaurus Rex involved. Yeah. We're going to throw the penny at him at some point. Like, we got to get it all in there.
Yeah, the only thing they didn't use was the big Joker card, right?
He threw Batman through it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He goes through it. So they're like, yeah, check. all he didn't do was throw him into the Bat computer. That was it. All right. So that's Superman Unchained. Is there anything you want to bring up that you missed out in terms of like really liked or really disliked?
I feel like I'm ragging on this book, and I didn't dislike this book. I read this book just fine. It's when you read a book and you're like, this is comics. This is a C-level comic where it's just like, this is fine. And then you start picking at it. You're either going to pick out all the good things or the bad things. It didn't feel like there were enough stakes here. It didn't feel like there were enough consequences because Jedediah doesn't die. So you have this moment where Superman as a child could have seen death firsthand, could have seen what his powers did to people and given him this moment of growth. But there's no consequence. Like, we can't have Superman accidentally kill a guy. Jedediah is fine. When he's saving the tower in Dubai, there gets to be a point where he starts thinking like, all right, what is the acceptable loss situation here? And then it doesn't matter because he saves everybody. He finds a way at the end, which is very Superman. Superman finds a way. I get that. But for a moment, he has that thing where he's essentially saying like, what's the fewest number of people that can die for me to save everyone else? And I thought, like, oh, that would be a good moment to see Superman struggling. But no, he doesn't. He just saves everybody. So I don't know. I kind of had problems with that where nothing seemed to come of anything. Like 18 terrorists are surrounding Lois Lane and they have guns aimed at her, and like she kicks a few of them. And
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I think our ratings are going to be pretty similar on this book. It could be wrong. Now, on your show, on Ghost of the Stratosphere, you guys do a normal school scale, A to F.
Yeah.
We do 1 through 5. Quarter scale's fine. So, Superman Unchained, 2013 to 2014. What would you rate this on a 1 to 5 scale? And again, the Sir John rule: 0 is always an option.
0. It's not a 0. Trust me. I would not give I'm going to say it's a 2.5. I mean, it really is. It's like, it's the top of the bell curve of comic books. It's fine. There's a lot of bad stuff in it, but I enjoyed reading it. It was stuff that I guess didn't bother me until I sat down and started talking about it with you. Like, right. The Ascension stuff didn't need to be there. Yeah, it was too long. Yeah, there weren't really any stakes, but it was fine. I wasn't mad reading it. I mean, trust me, you've listened to our show. Sometimes they make me read books that I'm just like, I was mad reading this book.
Let me think if I can think of one. It was this week's book you weren't a big fan of, right? Fantastic Four.
Grand Design. Yeah, I don't know why that book exists.
Yeah, that was your summation. It was like, I don't know who this book is written for. All right, well, I'll give this one a little lower than you. I'll say it a 2.25. If they edited it down and got it to 6 issues, 2.5.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the use of Luthor for no reason other than
as a crutch.
I'm writing Superman. Let's get Luthor in here.
Yeah.
The Ascension bit. If this was a superhero movie, the immediate complaint everybody would have would be there's too many villains, which is true. You got General Lane and Wraith. Put them on the same side, but that's 2 people. Ascension. That's a whole nother fucking thing that even General Lane and Wraith are against. And then Luthor. It's like, it's not only are there too many villains, but they're all villains not together. They're
that have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like this guy hates Superman because he's Luthor, and then these guys hate Superman because his potential, and then Ascension just hates everybody. All right. So
what did you think real fast of the of like dead robot Luthor?
I wanted to bring that up, and I forgot to earlier. That was a part of the book that I honestly don't know what was happening. Every time
I thought he was dead. Suit,
it seemed like he was dead or stunned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly, there's a whole bit early on, right? If you want to explain it, Stu, explain it.
Well, Luthor is in prison and he starts revealing like, well, I'm about to break out of prison. So they're like, haha, we'll hit you with knockout gas. And they fill his cell up with knockout gas, but then all of a sudden he has this giant like robot suit that his body is in, and his face, like his eyes are all bugged out, and his mouth is agape, and there's like a big screen on the top that is Luthor talking out of it, and this thing just walks around with Luthor's like limp, bug-eyed body and a computer screen with Luthor talking on it.
I couldn't figure out why was he asleep? I mean, I get they gassed him, but wouldn't he wake up eventually?
Eventually, yeah, no, but he's like that for a long time.
Every time.
Like, I feel like Jim Lee was just like, I want to draw Lex Luthor in the thing that Ripley used to fight the alien queen.
Get away from her, you bitch. Every time, let me, just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Perfect, right. Can you see that? Like what the fuck is happening there? And I was completely confused by that. I was going to bring that up early in the show, and I forgot about it. I'm so glad you said that.
Oh, I love that. It was just so weird looking, and it's one of those things where like it's real dumb and it doesn't need to be there, but it's comics. Why the hell not?
Isn't that what he actually abducts Jimmy Olsen wearing? I think he's wearing that when he gets Jimmy Olsen. I could be wrong.
I think so. But because he wears it for a while.
And to give credit where credit's due, the backup, the issues that did have epilogues were drawn by Dustin Nguyen.
Who, that was even one of my notes. Like, Jim Lee, great. I mean, Jim Lee is Jim Lee, but I really like Dustin Nguyen, so I really like the art in those backup stories. The way he drew Wraith coming up to Superman made him look like this, like, mammoth of a villain who was about to fight Superman. It was pretty good.
Here's real quick. Here's Batman in his invisible suit.
Yeah, you need a toy of that. Come on.
Come on, kids. $8.99 Walmart. Don't go right now. There's coronavirus out there. All right, Stu. So why don't you tell everybody out in Pina Comics world? This has been great, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm going to tell Andy and Chad that I want to do one of these with them too. This is, it was kind of like easiest to just try this with two people at first.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out pretty well. I love your show. I tell you that all the time. I've been lucky enough to be on it a few times. You were on the radio show one time, but now because of Corona,
I'm on the real show.
You're on the real show.
My first time on the real show,
and
I could have sworn and I didn't. I'm so used to our show.
Yeah. I laugh sometimes at what Andy will let go. He won't say the F-bomb.
He will not. He'll bleep that out, but he lets everything else
something
go.
else. Like there was maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, he said something, and I can't remember what it was. And in my car, I went, "That's way worse than fuck." Like that is way worse than fuck. Whatever he said.
Yeah. Apparently, his kids can only not hear the F word.
Keep him away from the F word, honey.
God bless him. I don't know. Parenting seems hard to me. He makes his own life choices.
You're going to be on the audio show soon. We're going to do a Pipe Movie Invitational.
I know. I'm so excited. I love those.
Awesome. Thank you. And you picked what movie?
Best. Lost in Translation.
Which I'm excited for because a couple of reasons. John likes it, I think. So,
oh, my God. Really?
I think he likes it.
Okay.
I've never seen it. So, and I don't know. Maybe Lloyd will be the wild card here. Maybe he'll have a problem. I don't know.
I know all your Pint movies that you've been doing lately are these bizarre, off-the-wall things, and I'm coming in here with like Oscar-nominated Lost in Translation drama. So hopefully I'm not skewing your demographics.
Fine by me. Fine by me. The whole thing is whatever the person picks. So for every Escape from New York we get a Greasy Strangler, and that's it. I've only got one rule. There's some movie out there called a Serbian film. You ever hear of this?
Oh, yes, I've heard.
And I've made it a rule.
No one's making
anybody
you watch
brings
a
that,
Serbian film.
I'm not watching that. I don't care who you are. If my mother picks it, I'm not watching that, Ma. If she's on her deathbed and she picks it, I'm going to tell her no.
Yeah, no, I've heard of that. I have no interest in that. I will never choose that.
For all you people out there and Stu, go to Wikipedia and read the plot description of a Serbian film.
Yeah.
I did. And just read it.
Yeah.
Just read it.
It allegedly makes like the Human Centipede movies look like Casablanca.
Read it. and you will agree. It is actually shocking what someone could have filmed, and I don't want anything to do with it. Tell everybody about Ghosts of the Stratosphere, where to find you, what you guys do, and what's coming up.
All right, so Ghost of the Stratosphere. Our website is gotstratosphere.com. On Twitter, Instagram, we are at gotstratosphere. We are a comic book-centric podcast. On the podcast, except for on our Patreon episodes, we will only talk about comics. But on our website, we have daily articles, and that's all kinds of nonsense. That's movies, wrestling, whatever we feel like talking about at the time. And geez, what do we have coming up? I know we just recently did a draft. We drafted female superhero teams.
I like the draft episodes a lot.
Yeah, and we had a Read Pile Versus where Andy actually let both Chad and I pick a book. And I picked Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and Chad picked Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss book. I don't know exactly what the full title is.
You seem like you were thrilled by that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll see.
You gotta listen. It's free, but you're not going to get the answer here. All right. So, Stu, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've waited a long time. I was very happy to be on, and you and I only talk like every day anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. Your wife's got a problem with me. I know. Tell her I heard her on the podcast this week, and tell her the story about the snowstorm and the phone calls. That was very amusing. All right, you've been watching Pina Comics 100 Proof book project with Stu from Ghosts of the Stratosphere. We talked all about Superman Unchained, and I think you could agree that check it out if you want to. Yeah, it was a book. There's no better time to read Superman Unchained than during quarantine.
Yeah.
All right,
and
Stu.
it's on the DC Universe service, so if you have that, read it there. And it's an underrated service. I think people hate on it, but I like the Titans show. Doom Patrol, Andy loved. I thought it was fine. I love the Harley Quinn show. There's a lot of good stuff on there if you don't already have it.
I have it. I enjoy it myself. I enjoy it myself. The interface is weird on the TV.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
menus are shit, but that's a whole nother thing. All right, Stu, if you listen to the show, you know that we usually use one phrase to get out of Pint of Comics, and I'm going to let you do it this time.
Crap, what is it? I'm blanking.
See ya.
See ya. Okay, yeah. I was thinking later. I was going to say later. And I know you do the Rambo thing at the end, but I couldn't.
Yeah, we'll throw that on. We'll throw that on too. All right, Stu, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.